Right.
Sort of, yeah.
There we are. Hello there. We'll do a little bit of an intro again. I'm
Hello.
Charlotte.
And I'm Jay. And yeah, I'd like to share some knowledge about Spinoza because I realized that he's underestimated as a linguist. So, as you probably know, our podcast discusses different language-related topics. And this video is called Was Spinoza Right? So I decided to ask myself and our viewers whether he was right or wrong when he discussed different ideas in his philosophical and theological works. But while studying his works, I bumped into his Hebrew grammar. And that's why I'd like to mention some ideas mentioned in his grammar. But first, I should say that Spinoza was originally a Jew who was excommunicated by his teacher, and that's why he had to abandon Judaism, and he also attacked Christianity because he believed in a god of pantheism, which means that it's not a personal god, but it's a god that comprises everything and has no personal traits.
What is a personal god?
Personal god, that it's a lawgiver. And I think that Spinoza rejected all laws, and that's why it can be seen both in Judaism, in his attitude towards Judaism, when he rejected the laws of Pharisees and the laws of different rabbis, and that's why he eventually had to abandon Judaism. And at the same time, he also abandoned laws in linguistics, because he was a linguist. And that's why he was a big fan of descriptive grammar, not prescriptive grammar. Because according to prescriptive grammar, we have to follow different laws. So I do know that some of our listeners or viewers, they believe in prescriptive grammar in general, and they think that while studying different rules, you can master this or that language. But I, for one, I'm with Spinoza, and I even call him my soulmate, because actually I think that language is much more complicated, like everything in the world is much more complicated. And there are more exceptions to the rule than one can think of.
What is prescriptivism according to Spinoza?
According to Spinoza, it's like when someone tells you how to read the Bible, how to pronounce this or that word, etc. But he realized that, for example, it's impossible to reconstruct the Hebrew language accurately for a simple reason that it was ages ago, and actually speech cannot be rendered fully, even though we have some special dots left by Masoretes to mark different vowels in the Hebrew text of the Bible. Still, paralanguage, which means gestures, tones, and even implications and special attitude like irony, etc., cannot be rendered with the help of special signs. And that's why I'm with Spinoza in his descriptive approach, and I think that we should, linguistically speaking, Spinoza was right. As for his religious debate, because he had to reject he was asked actually to reject his religious views, and he insisted that he would never reject them because he was striving for the truth. I think he was mistaken.
In what sense? Why?
Because the problem was that on the one hand he believed in pantheism, which means that he rejected the personal God. While I believe that there must be some personal aspect to God, because even if we have this God who is a lawgiver, not a lawgiver, but who is the Lord of Einstein and Spinoza, that is the one who organized the universe and who created the laws, physical laws, so to speak. Still, there must be someone who would like to reveal himself or itself to the world. And according to the anthropic principle, God which is the principle when we think about the universe somehow related to humans. So it is connected with the humans. And according to this principle, God, if he ever wanted to reveal himself to man, would do it actually in a human form, in a human shape and form. And even in the Bible we see several examples when, even in the so-called Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible, we find some examples when God reveals himself in a human form, like in the first chapter of Ezekiel, etc. And Yeshua in the New Testament is actually seen as a kind of revelation of God in a human form. Even in Buddhism, Buddha is, although not a god, but still a kind of a human revelation of God. So we can see so many examples. So although on the one hand I disagree with Spinoza in this part, when he rejected the human form of God, because he actually believed that God, all human attributes are human-made, man-made, and that's why he wanted to reject them. But I, for one, think that while God is omniscient and omnipotent, sorry, yeah, all power, yeah. So that's why I think that he actually should include everything and should be aware of everything, including all those human concepts. And if he wanted to be understood, and if he wanted to reveal himself, he would probably choose a human form, a human shape and form. And that's why I disagree with Spinoza in this part. And the second, more important part, yeah, is especially when it comes to his debate with his former Jewish teachers, is that I realized all of a sudden that all of us, or nearly all of us, have made this mistake, which is we used to think that Judaism is a religion. So Spinoza was debating his former religion as if it were religion, Judaism as if it were religion, but actually Judaism is Judom, or Iudeistvo in Russian, which means that it includes all aspects of Jewish life, and it's not a religion proper.
Sounds like Jewishness then. In
Jewishness,
English,
yeah, but there is a special term like Judom, yeah. But anyway, so in this case, when he debated Judaism, judging by, using some theology or philosophy, he failed to understand the main point. And this point was made clear by his teacher. So his teacher insisted that he should keep his views in secret, even if he believed in that, because otherwise that would harm his community.
And why would it do that?
What?
Why would it harm his community?
Because actually his community had to hide their religious views for a simple reason that they lived surrounded with Christians, etc., etc. And that could be an attack against Christianity, because rejecting a personal God of Christianity and a personal God of Judaism would harm both Christians and Jews. But Spinoza refused to do it. And I think it was the main mistake, because he failed to understand that the main point of Judaism is not its theology, thank you very much. It's not its philosophy, but safety of all Jews. So the main point, I think, that he should have remained inside his community, believing in what he believed, publishing his works anonymously, as he did with some of his works, but still. And at the same time, he should have... I think that he must have actually realized that Judaism was Judom. What do you think about it?
I think almost nobody, no Jewish person I've ever met, and nobody I know who's been involved, I suppose, in like Jewish communities, kind of telling that I'm using that word itself, including myself. I don't think I've ever met anyone who relates to Judaism as simply a religion. I think even if you look it up, it's defined as like an ethno-religion anyway, which is, I guess, slightly different to what you're talking about in terms of lifestyle, but still encapsulates the same idea. And I think, anyone with kind of like even a fairly elementary understanding of Judaism does understand that it's not a term that just encompasses a religion, right? So being Jewish, I think the main point of it is that it does encompass, let's say, some inherent, beliefs perhaps, but also a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than, you have Christians who just say that they are Christian because they believe X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
I think it's not really as kind of feasible with Judaism. Mm-hmm. So, what Spinoza personally believed, obviously I can't say enough about that yet, but I have been reading about him. Mm-hmm. But I can definitely say that I agree with you on that front.
Yeah, so, and there was one more thing. So the main takeaway would be not just Spinoza is an interesting linguist and we should study his Hebrew grammar. I definitely recommend it to you. So if you have a spare minute, find it and read it. Mm-hmm. It's available in English. But it's also important to stress that, funny enough, all Christian-Jewish debates make no sense whatsoever. When Christian teachers try to convince Jewish teachers that they are mistaken, it's so wrong. It's like pushing Germans to admit that they're not Germans, or pushing Americans to admit that they're not Americans. The same with Jews. So when Christians insist that Jews are mistaken, and they want Jews to admit it, it's nearly equal to admitting that you are not alive. That's why, while excommunicating someone, Jews say a special prayer called Kaddish. It's said when someone dies, and it means that it's a figurative death, because actually what is important is to remain inside the community, to remain yourself. So not all people remain who they used to be. For example, I changed my name, I changed my language, etc. So, but it's a whole different story. But anyway, in a sense, it's a kind of revival in a new form, in a new shape and form. And I think, just to put it in a more poetic way, Spinoza, although died in Judaism, he was resurrected as a scholar and as a linguist. And I do hope that you will soon realize that he was not just a very good philosopher, but also a very, very good scholar and linguist.
We can talk about this more next time, I think, as well. Actually, it's mostly today I was learning about this from you. I guess we'll start to finish up here. And if I recall correctly, you will be doing something interesting on Friday.
Yeah, I'll be delivering a lecture in ethics, and I do hope that all our viewers will be a little bit more ethical. So have a good one.
There we are.
Bye.